I met with a young lady named Leslie Portillo, and you're going to meet her in just a bit. We met up so that we could film a live or, just in-person interview slash conversation. And so I'm going to be sharing that with you in just a moment. And I want to just give a quick recap, kind of update on the David E. Taylor cult, things that are happening. It appears that David Taylor is in custody in St. Louis. That's information I just received today. I haven't been able to look it up. If you've watched my recent videos, I talked about how he's not in the Bureau of Prison database, and so he has not been formally arraigned in Detroit, which is where the federal indictment is out of. Michelle Brannon did have a court appearance recently on September 24th, and she has a formal arraignment, or it's referred to as a detention hearing. It's scheduled for this coming Tuesday, which is September 30th, and I will update you after that. She is, through her attorney, seeking a bail, a bond, and I suspect that she may not get it based upon the nature of the charges and the fact that, she's a cult leader and the fact that she's a danger to society. But those are my opinions, and I will be sticking to it. So, other things that we need to think about as we go forward, there are several when you're dealing with charges like this and anticipated litigation. I shared this in my most recent video because it was asserted in a response to a motion by Michelle's attorney. She essentially is throwing David Taylor under the bus. She's pointing to herself as a victim. The danger of that is, if you decide to go that route, then you are essentially agreeing that the facts that support the basis of the charges are true, right? So if she is going to say that she is in fact a victim, then she would have to essentially be acquiescing or agreeing that those charges are in fact true, that the facts that make up those charges are true, that in fact there was abuse, that in fact there was forced labor, slavery, that there was in fact conspiracy. So if that's the angle that she's choosing to go down, then that would be interesting. But it is certainly possible that she's only choosing that angle just for the purpose of the bond. And that doesn't mean that her attorney can't just totally abandon that argument and seek another argument if they go to trial. So that's just for the purpose of her bond hearing, perhaps, not sure, but clearly she is trying to point to herself as a victim for that. So there's also, and I think that I may have touched on this in a video, there's this issue of competency. There's been no indication that her, talking about Michelle, her attorney will be bringing that up. People sometimes, if you're not in the law, they might confuse competency and insanity. So right now we are just at the arraignment, the bond, the detention hearing stage. If at arraignment there was an issue that Michelle's attorney believed that she was not competent to stand trial, it's two questions essentially that is asked. It's whether the defendant understands the charges against them and whether they're able to assist their counsel in their defense. There's been no indication in regard to Michelle that she's not competent. In fact, they're going forward with that detention hearing and they've asked for it. That would have been an appropriate time to raise potential competency if that was an issue, and that has not happened. Now, with David Taylor, that could be a different story. We don't know. He's in St. Louis, from my understanding. I don't know why he's being held there, and perhaps there might be some movement next week. We'll see. But I will tell you this, and so this is a clarification from my last video. I had said that it looked like the September 24th hearing with Michelle was virtual, but it wasn't. Found out afterwards that she was actually there. She was in Detroit. When I had looked up on the inmate locator, it showed that she was in Oklahoma, but she wasn't. So perhaps they just didn't update it. I guess it goes to show we can't really trust everything that we're looking up on there, But in any event, she was placed in the custody of the marshals after her hearing on September 24th. So, it's just a few days later, less than a week later, she's going to have to show back up in Detroit for that hearing, that detention hearing. And yeah, so I guess we will see what happens at that time, and I'll provide you with an update. So we are going to get into the video with Leslie. She's going to share her heart. She wanted to do this. She really thought long and hard, and she'll tell you in the video when she first contacted me, it wasn't necessarily to do a video. She just wanted some advice. And you know, she really has a heart, obviously, for her friend who passed away, and so on her friend's behalf, she's speaking up. And that is part of the reason why she's speaking up. I think that she has a voice in this that people are going to want to hear, because she gives some insight as to what she went through, and she just gives it to you in plain language. You know, she answers questions very plainly, and she, you know, she's had time to process this, and so she is going through healing as well. And I will meet you after I show the video of the conversation that I had with Leslie, and just to give you a recap. And I hope that to hear from you in the comments in regard to what you think about the interview. I am so glad to have you, Leslie. This is going to be a very interesting conversation, and for those of you joining us, I just thank you that you're here, and keep us in your prayers. Keep Leslie in your prayers, and just listen to what she has to say, because it is so super important. So as I got you all ready for this, this is the day. I am talking to Leslie Portillo. Am I saying it right?
Yes, the Spanish way Portillo, the English way Portillo.
Okay, Portillo. Thank you. And so I'm just going to let you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself. You don't have to tell us exactly where you're from, you know, keeping it as limited as possible in that regard. You know, you don't have to say where you live and all that, but just give us an idea of who you are and how you got involved with the David E. Taylor Ministry.
So my name is Leslie Portillo, and I'm here to share my story along with my best friend Danielle Hendrick's story while we were in Detroit in Michigan. Everything we witnessed with Joshua Media Ministries and David E. Taylor and Michelle Brannon. And basically, me and my best friend, we grew up in Richmond, Virginia. I live in Orlando, Florida, and she unfortunately passed away in 2019. But I just want to share this story because I think it's important to hear certain things that happened that I witnessed while I was there.
Okay, thank you so much. Tell me a little bit about Danielle, because you said that she passed. Tell me how you guys were friends for a bit before you went to the ministry.
Yes. So
okay.
me and Danielle, actually, we met through a childhood friend. And when Danielle and I first got connected, we got connected over a business deal, actually. My brother, he's a local artist in Richmond, and she wanted to represent him and do some local art galleries for my brother. So our friendship actually started off as a business relationship, but then we became very close friends. And in 2015, my best friend got sick with...
And that's Danielle.
Danielle.
And how old were you guys about this time?
I was about 30, and maybe she was about 32.
Okay.
If I'm recalling correctly. She got sick, and the doctors couldn't provide a medical condition. So she heard about Joshua Media Ministry through the Word Network. And after she heard about Joshua Media Ministries, she told me about them. And then her and I would call their prayer line a lot. And basically, because of that connection, they asked us to become part-time on their marketing team staff.
Okay.
And that's
did you
how
have
we
to
got connected.
Did you have to move there to do that?
We did not have to move there, but in 2017, we went to a December crusade, and she wanted to stay there because they were offering a 3-month prayer sabbatical. So her and I ended up staying about I stayed 7 months. She stayed about 9 months, and then I left, and she went back to Michigan in 2018.
Okay. So when you first got hooked up, when you said that they wanted you to be a part of their team and you did it part-time, what was the role that you had and how did you do it not being there?
So the role that I had was promoting their events, and basically me and my best friend, we would promote their events through our social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, things like that. I didn't really use TikTok, but she may have. And also they would send us flyers, physical flyers. We would get a box of 500 of them, and we would basically just share the flyers with everybody within our local community. So that's how we did the marketing. And also when we were in Michigan, we would do a lot of like outreach for marketing purposes.
But initially you weren't even up there yet and you're doing this.
Yes.
Where were you living at that time?
Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
And she was in Richmond, Virginia.
Got it. So 2 different markets. You guys are doing that. And were you getting paid?
Nope.
Did you anticipate getting paid, or did you know you wouldn't?
No, because they made us think this was more like we're volunteering our time to the ministry, that we're doing a good cause. So there was no anticipation of payment. We did this out of our hearts, using our business and marketing skills to help out a so-called ministry.
Okay.
That's what we did.
And then at that time, did you guys each have jobs where you're actually earning money?
Well, she was doing marketing events for like, so she had done marketing events for like the Yankee teams,
okay,
football teams, people in like the media industry. She was doing that. And at that time, I was also working for a title company.
Okay.
So we were working, but when we were transitioning to, at that time, we stopped working for a little bit. So her and I for different reasons. Her because she had the medical condition, and me because I was going through a transition. I was going through a transition in my career, and then when we went to the December crusade in 2017, we just decided to do a prayer sabbatical to try to seek Jesus more.
Okay.
So that was the situation.
Was that the first time that you were actually in Taylor at their ministry on Superior Road? Was that in December of 2017?
No. My first time at Taylor was in August 2015.
Okay. So what happened there?
When I went in August of 2015, basically the staff love bombs you. The staff makes you feel welcome. I met everyone on the staff.
Can you name some names if you feel comfortable doing that?
Yes. I met Jenny. I met Kia. I met Katie. I met Deborah Frazier. I met Devin. I met Kathleen and her daughters. I met a lot of the staff members.
What about Michelle Brannon and David Taylor?
For the first event, I did meet Michelle Brannon for a little bit. It wasn't like a huge interaction, but I did meet her for a little bit, and I met David Taylor for a photo that we took together.
Okay. Did you have any impressions of them initially?
My first impression of David Taylor was, I didn't pick up anything initially. He just looked like he was a pastor and he was running a ministry, and he, my first impression was that he knew the Bible. That was kind of my first impression of David E. Taylor.
What about Michelle? What was your impression of her?
Michelle, the first time I met Michelle, I could tell she was very involved in the organization. I could tell that.
Did you meet anybody that worked in the call center there?
Yes. Jenny worked in the call center. Kia worked in the call center. Lindsay worked in the call center. A lot of the girls and the guys, they worked in the call center.
Do you know if they got paid?
No, they did not get paid.
And you know that personally?
I know that personally.
Wow.
Yeah.
So any red flags, or what did you notice when you first went there in 2015?
In 2015 to 2017, I didn't notice anything right away. It was when I was actually there in Michigan with Danielle during the prayer sabbatical that I noticed red flags.
Okay. Tell us about that. How did you transition from, so for about 2 years, you're still working from home doing this?
Yes.
And then how did you transition to where you actually moved up there?
Well, we were there for the prayer sabbatical, and then we just decided to extend our time while we were up there. They would ask us a lot to become full-time, but I never felt that connection to go on full-time. I wanted to stay on part-time. My best friend did want to go on full-time, but both of us ended up just being part-time.
Okay.
While we were up there.
So where did you live?
We lived in the ministry building for 3 months, and then we lived with a close friend for 3 months while we were up there. So yeah.
When you lived in the ministry building, were there like dorms, or what? Just describe what that looked like.
No, there are no dorms. It was literally just, just the building, a floor area. We happened to have pillows and blankets and stuff to sleep on, but not everybody else did, But
so there's no beds?
There's no beds.
What would you sleep on? Just the floor?
Just the floor.
Is it like a auditorium, or where would you be sleeping?
It's an auditorium. So it's a huge auditorium, an auditorium that can fit up to 5,000 people. 5,000 people did show up to an event that we did help promote. And the staff members, some of them would sleep at the ministry. What I noticed, it was always the night staff. So if there was a night staff there, they would have to sleep at the ministry. I noticed Joseph sometimes would sleep at the ministry.
And Joseph is one of the pastors there?
One of the pastors there.
Okay.
He would sometimes sleep at the ministry. And, but they had, what I know about the housing part of it is that some of the girls had their own areas to go live in, and the guys had their own homes to go live in. I knew a particular situation where one of the staff members was sharing a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 other girls. And the reason why I know that is because I was personally there at her apartment. And one thing I want to mention that I've noticed has not been mentioned, because I know a lot of people mentioned the EBT cards and, they didn't work. But there were some people who did have part-time jobs bringing in income.
Okay.
But that income was for an apartment to share the housing with other full staff members.
Okay.
So I can't say that everybody did that, but I know there were a couple of people who did do that.
So when you were there and you're living in the ministry building and essentially sleeping on the floor, did you have another job?
At that time, me and Danielle took time off to do the prayer sabbatical. We decided to extend it for 7 months, but that's why I left, because I had to come back and work again. So
tell us what the prayer sabbatical was. What was that?
The prayer sabbatical, well, they call it a shut-in, where David E. Taylor shuts in for 3 months, and I don't know if he always did this, but that particular year, he invited for people to join him on the prayer sabbatical. So he left the ministry building open 24/7 for anybody to come in or out into the building for that prayer sabbatical. They would hold Sunday services. Sometimes they would have like maybe a woman's service. But it really was more like between you and God. And it was open to the public.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've heard that term shut-in. Is that always what it was? Because I heard it in the sense of he would disappear in essence, and nobody would know where he was? Is that another terminology of shut-in?
Yes, he would disappear and nobody would know where he was. During the 3 months, we did not see David E. Taylor. After the 3 months, we did see him, but he would come sporadically to the ministry building.
So where did you think he was, or did he say?
I don't know where he was. I personally think he may have been traveling, doing his own thing, but I know, for a fact that, at that time he was also dating one of my close friends who is his ex-girlfriend. So I know he was spending time with his ex-girlfriend, but
Okay.
I can't pinpoint 100% where he was.
Since you brought that up, let's talk about that. Because I know you know some stuff, but you don't want to name names. So you know
Yes.
somebody that was actually in a relationship with him, and it's not Vicky Yohe, right?
I know another girl who he was in a long-term relationship with. They were together for a few years, and it is not Vicky Yohe.
Can you tell us what you know about that? Things that she would share with you?
She shared that something was off about David E. Taylor. She actually started to get the feeling that she was being cheated on by David E. Taylor before Vicky Yohe even came out with her story.
Okay.
When Vicky Yohe came out with the story, it legitimized that he in fact was cheating on her, and she was just so embarrassed and devastated to the point she didn't want to come forward with her story, because she comes from a church background. She has a lot of church connections, and she was just embarrassed. She felt humiliated. She felt like this man promised that he would marry her, and then come to find out, he was not who he said he was.
Did she ever share with you anything where he might have been abusive or like mean to her, things like that?
I don't think he was ever mean to her, but she witnessed him being physical with some of the staff members. She witnessed him being aggressive with the staff members, and she always questioned that. Even to him, she would question, why are you like that? And she always found it a little weird and odd that a pastor would be that aggressive with the staff members, but he would pass it off as like, you have to teach them so that they're in order and they're doing the right thing, I guess.
Did she tell you this, or did you witness it?
No, she told me this.
Did you ever witness David Taylor being physical with anybody?
I never witnessed him being physical with anybody, but I did witness him be aggressive with the staff members. I did witness him be aggressive with a particular staff member, and her name is Jenny.
What happened?
Well,
give us the just set the scene. Like, in what context? Was it in a meeting? Was it during?
So I was invited into a staff meeting because they wanted me to be full-time. Technically, I was not supposed to be in that staff meeting, but because they wanted me full-time, I was in that staff meeting. I was in a few staff meetings, and I did witness staff meeting scenarios. And in this case, unfortunately, he was basically humiliating and breaking Jenny down.
And who is Jenny? What did she do there?
Jenny was one of the staff members. Jenny was the staff member that I interacted with the most. She assisted with the marketing side of things, and she was also in the call center. And she basically, I interacted with her out of everybody the most. But he basically broke her down in front of everybody in that staff meeting.
Tell us how he did that.
He weaponized the information that he knew about her mother. He weaponized the information that he knew about her family, because her family, I believe, was speaking out against him. So he weaponized that information against Jenny. even to the point where he was telling her, like, your mother deserved to get cancer. She was crying. She was just completely mentally and emotionally broken down. And he did that in front of the whole staff meeting.
How many people were there, do you think?
In that staff meeting, it was probably about maybe 20 of us.
And what were those people doing? Just watching?
We were watching, but it was a very intense feeling. It was a feeling of like, it was very intense. The emotion of it was very intense. I was actually sitting there wondering, why am I witnessing this right now?
Right.
I was a little bit confused. I was like, why is he going in so hard on her? Jenny was so sweet. I connected with Jenny, and everybody was just kind of like shut down, I think. And like, it was a feeling of like, you guys better not do anything wrong or else you're next, kind of like a threatening type of feeling.
Sure.
That we got from him.
Right. Did you see any other times where he would be just mean, yelling, reprimand people, either in a service or in a staff meeting?
Oh yes, he would
what?
If something did not go right with the media team, if something didn't go right during the events, he would get upset and he would command and direct, and everybody else had to do something to serve this man. And if you didn't do it right, you would be reprimanded, you will get yelled at. I actually also witnessed Chin. I witnessed Chin yell at the guys one day.
I don't know who Chin is. This is new.
So Pastor Chin, he's
Okay.
another pastor, because I mentioned there was Joseph, Pastor Steve, there was a Pastor Chin.
Okay.
But he disconnected sometime in 2018, because when I was there, he was there, but then I remembered he left out of nowhere, and we all wondered why he left, and nobody knew his whereabouts. But he also got a little bit. I remember he was yelling at the guys for not cleaning the auditorium right. So I witnessed that too with
Okay.
Pastor Chen.
So just to get an idea, how long were you actually involved with the ministry or the cult?
I was involved for 3.5 years, from 2015 to the end of 2018.
And out of that period of time, how long were you actually in Taylor?
7 months.
Okay.
I was there from December and I left in June. My best friend stayed till September, came back home, and then went back because her family didn't want her to go back, but JMMI was basically influencing her to go back. And honestly, she wasn't even in the right state to go back, because she had just gotten diagnosed with cervical 4 cancer, and she was very sick. And when she went back, actually, it was the weirdest thing. So they had 2 JMMI staff members come and pick up my best friend, but when she went back, they didn't open the door for her to go into the ministry, and we didn't know why. So it was an odd thing, but then while she was there, I know she was still going to the services at JMMI.
When you were there with Danielle, and that's your best friend, when you say your best friend, it's Danielle.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
the one that was sick. Was there ever any time where you were trying to get her medical care and Michelle Brannon was involved?
Yes, so I was actually sharing this story earlier with her, and basically what happened was there was a weird situation where I noticed 3 girls got sick on the same day. Deborah Frazier's daughter, Katie, got sick, Crystal got sick, and my best friend Danielle got sick. The weird part about it was the way they got sick, they were all kind of, their bodies shut down and they were like paralyzed. And anytime Danielle had medical issues at JMMI, they would make us go to the hospital. Danielle would not want to go to the hospital, but I would want her to go, and JMMI wanted her to go, and Michelle Brannon wanted her to go because she felt that Danielle was a liability, that if something happened to Danielle's family could maybe sue the ministry. So they would actually force us to go to the hospital. And yes, every time there was a medical condition, if it was something urgent, like that day when she was paralyzed, we did go to the hospital. I made Danielle go to the hospital that day.
Let's talk about Danielle and what happened. Eventually, you left, but Danielle stayed.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened?
So I wasn't there, so I was actually getting information from another girl who is not connected to JMMI, but she was living in that area, because Danielle was going to JMMI, but while we were there, we also got connected to other local ministries around the Detroit area. So Danielle would go to other churches while she was there, and my one friend, her name is Jessica, she basically gave me information that Danielle was not doing good, to the point where she didn't think that Danielle was in the right mental capacity, mentally, that she wasn't doing good, but she was still attending the JMMI services while she was there.
What caused you to eventually leave?
I personally left for a couple of reasons. I left because in June, my family had a family get-together.
What year is that?
June 2018.
Okay.
My family had a family get-together. My brothers were traveling in from Richmond, and my family, my nieces, my nephews, my parents, we were all having a family get-together, and I didn't want to miss that. So I actually left because of my family get-together, and also because I felt it was time for me to come back home.
We're going to move in a minute, but go ahead.
It was time to come back home. So that's actually why I left, and I felt like I'm not going to serve full-time, so I wasn't going to come back to serve full-time.
Okay. Let's start there. I'm going to just stop it. We're going to just reposition because the sun's coming up. So when we left off, I was asking you about how you ended up leaving the ministry. I hate saying ministry because I've been referring to it as a cult, but you know what I mean. At this time when we left off, you were still up there with your friend Danielle, and she was very sick. So ultimately, how did you end up leaving?
So the way I ended up leaving was in June of 2018. My family had a family get-together. So that's why I left. I needed to be there for that family get-together. But I also already knew that I was not going to serve full-time. So I was leaving Detroit for good. I wasn't going to come back. But unfortunately, my friend decided to stay. She did come back home for a few months, but then they basically influenced her to come back, and 2 staff members got Danielle to come back, and they actually drove her, got her back up. I think she came back up by train, but they drove her to the station to go to the train and everything like that to go back to Michigan. So
when you decided to leave, did you tell Danielle, hey, I'm leaving and you should come, or how did that happen?
So yeah, I told Danielle that I was leaving, that I had to be there for this, event with my family, and I didn't want her to stay there alone. I was very concerned. I was concerned about her whole medical situation from 2015 until everything happened, I didn't want her to stay there by herself, but she was adamant that she wanted to stay, so I had to basically respect, her decision to stay. What gave me a little bit more peace was knowing that there were other friends there that were watching out for her. Now I know that those people were probably there for a reason, because they were not connected to JMMI. There were people who were not connected to JMMI that were also friends with us. Even the friend that we stayed with, he was not connected to JMMI. He actually got connected to JMMI because of us. So I believe that there were people there that were good people, but also she did stay there because of JMMI. So
during that time frame, like leading up to when you finally decided that you were going to leave, did you have any red flags, or even before that, about this ministry?
we did have red flags. I think we both noticed the aggressiveness in David E. Taylor. We both noticed that, for the sabbatical, they said that the ministry building was going to be open 24/7. That actually was not true. They did control the hours that people left and came back. And one thing that Danielle and I loved to do was go to different types of diners, late night diners. We would go, and they would literally try to control our schedule. But we would always talk back and basically tell them, no, like, this is what we want to go do. This is where we want to go. We want to go see a museum. Like, whatever it was that we wanted to do, it almost seemed like they wanted to control the schedule. And those were the type of things that we started to notice that just felt a little bit off, because Danielle and I are both really independent girls. We don't need somebody to tell us when we can go or come
Right.
back. But yeah, we did notice that. We also noticed with the staff, they had a very hectic schedule for the August 2018 crusade. They wanted a goal of 5,000 people to show up to that event. 5,000 people did show up to that event.
Wow.
And it was because the staff worked day and night, the call centers. Day and night they were working those call centers. Some people would be up at 5 in the morning. Other people would go to bed at 2 a.m. in the morning. Like, it was a very intense schedule that the staff members would have to work.
So when you were just describing that they wouldn't let you do things or you would talk back, who are you engaging with? Was it ever David Taylor and Michelle Brannon, or was it other people?
Typically it was Michelle Brannon.
So tell me about your interactions with her.
Michelle ran everything. David E. Taylor was not there. Michelle was running it. She was the one telling everyone's schedule. She was telling everybody's projects, events. I also witnessed a conversation one time where a staff member, this particular staff member is from Ireland. I witnessed a very intense conversation where the staff member from Ireland did not want to do the volunteer hours that she had, I guess, agreed to. And Michelle basically was telling her, no, you have to be here. And it was a very intense conversation. And I remember just thinking to myself, like, well, it's volunteering. Why are they commanding her to be there?
Did you have conversations like these concerns with other people besides you and Danielle? With other people that were on staff there?
Well, yes, because we went to, I believe his name is Todd White. Is that his name, Todd White?
There is a
Todd White. He's a pastor named Todd
Yes.
White, right? So we
Lifestyle Christianity, I think, is his ministry.
Yes, so we went to a Todd White event
Okay.
while we were in Detroit, and we met other people, and there were other local Detroit people at the Todd White conference. When I met these people, they found out that Danielle and I were connected to Joshua Ministry. They instantly told us, do not be connected to them.
Wow.
Do not be connected to them. We had a lot of people, local people in Detroit, warn me and Danielle. So it's not like, I feel like God did put good people in our life to let us know, like, you don't want to be connected there.
Did they tell you anything specific? Anything that was particular in regard to why they were saying not to?
Yes.
Okay.
One woman told us that when David E. Taylor first got the ministry, how he got the ministry was in a bad way. The pastor and his wife who owned that building, David E. Taylor was having an affair with the pastor's wife. From the story that I was told, I don't know the 100% accuracy, but I do believe it is accurate. They said that that building was somehow stolen. So there was information that was told to me about how he obtained the building at Taylor.
Okay. So even with that information, so people from Todd White's ministry is telling you guys, hey, you don't want to be connected there. Danielle is hearing this as well.
Yes.
Is it affecting her, you, anyone else?
We were so confused. We were so confused because Danielle and I were like, okay, we would literally have these conversations at the diner. We're seeing things are a little off. We're hearing stories from other people. The story about the building being stolen, Danielle did not know that story. I was specifically told that story while Danielle was taking a nap one day. And when we would hear these stories, we were just confused, because I think what happens is when you get caught up in something like this, you're basically brainwashed. You know, it's like a brainwashing that occurs, and you want to believe what they're telling you. But once you start to ask questions, that's when they try to come in and control the narrative and things like that.
Did you ever ask direct questions to Michelle? Like any of the concerns, like, hey, why is David Taylor so mean to people? Why, things like that.
I did ask one day. I remember one day because they wanted us to drive vans up to Michigan. So that's another thing. There was a van convoy that they basically planned out for events. They had different vans from different cities driving up people to Michigan. I was one of those people. I came out of Florida. And I remember like thinking to myself, why are the volunteers paying for the van and paying for the gas?
You had to pay for it?
We had to pay for it. The ministry didn't pay for it. The so-called ministry, this cult, did not pay for the vans or the gas. So one of my questions was to them, why aren't you guys covering this? This is your event. These are sick people. I had a lady who was sick in the van. I had another couple that was going through different issues in the van. Like, these are vulnerable people who I'm taking up to Michigan, yet you want them to cover all the costs. Wow. And you guys don't want to cover anything. And I did ask that question, and always the answer was, you're doing this for God's kingdom. Your goodness is going to reap a harvest. They made you think whatever you gave, whether it was money, whether it was time, whether it was your skill sets, whatever it was, you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart because you're doing it for God's kingdom.
Did you believe that?
At first I did, because who I am, I just always, since I was little, would volunteer and I have a giving heart, that's who I am. So at first I did believe it, but then I started to question the things like, why aren't they covering it? Why is the staff being controlled when they could eat and when they could not eat?
Can you give us examples of what you saw?
Yes. So one example is, they could not eat dinner till a certain project was finished, or if they got so many phone calls done, or if they raised so much money, that is when they're allowed to go and eat.
And you saw this personally?
Yes, I saw it personally, how they would get controlled with the schedule of when they could eat or when they could not eat. Also, there was an order how they ate. So if you were the one that exceeded the most that day, that person got to eat first. If you were the one that didn't get anything done that day, you are last. Guess what? Me and Danielle were part-time, so we were last. Sometimes part of the last one, even though we were on the marketing team. But he did that with his full-time staff.
Wow. Amazing. So now let's take us to what eventually happened to Danielle. Just to close that up and let us know what happened with her. Did you talk to her before she passed?
So because of the Vicky Yohi situation, I disconnected Danielle stayed connected. Danielle did not believe me when I told her what Vicky Yohe said, what his ex-girlfriend said to me, and what other family members said to me.
And this is about being unfaithful and all of that stuff? Or is it more to it than that?
I told Danielle everything about the cheating, about everything Vicky said, about what I just witnessed with his ex-girlfriend. Danielle knew all the information, but Danielle took it as, you have to understand, she was in a vulnerable state. She was looking for a miracle to heal. So she took it as, oh, well, he's just getting persecuted. This is just persecution against him, persecution against the church. And she decided to cut me off. The last interaction Danielle and I had was she had sent me a recording that Easter, and that was the last recording I had.
Was that 2019?
In 2019, yes.
What did she say?
She basically just said how much she valued our friendship, and that she felt she was doing the right thing by being up there in Michigan, and that was the last audio conversation that happened
During the time that you were involved with the ministry, which was May 2015 until December of 2018, do I have that time frame right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us about your family. Like, what did they say, if anything, about your involvement with the ministry?
Obviously, Danielle's family and my family, they supported our decision, being connected with JMMI, but they also felt something was off and they couldn't explain it. They just felt something was off, but they supported the fact that we were connected with them, but I think they would have preferred that we were not as involved. If they could have had it their way, we wouldn't have been as involved as we were.
So after, and I'm assuming, and because we haven't established it yet, but after, when did Danielle pass?
Danielle passed in September of 2019.
Okay, and you're long gone.
I'm not there no more. In fact, at this point, people disconnected from the ministry, and the people that disconnected from the ministry, we got connected, trying to figure out how can we help the staff, what do we need to do to report this. But it came to a point where I felt myself I needed to just disconnect from everyone in the whole situation, just to mentally and emotionally heal from the whole situation, because it is an intense situation. When I disconnected, I did get harassment calls. So did Danielle's grandmother.
Like what?
We had people calling us, and I also believe that at some point I was stalked a little bit. So, and I did report that, that was reported to the police. It was just a little bit intense disconnecting, and I just felt like I needed to heal from the situation, and I needed to figure out what just occurred and why did it occur, and how did Danielle and I get caught up, and then why this happened.
So you're reflecting on how you even got there and everything you went through. And then in 2019, I mean, you're gone for several months, and you're getting calls?
Yes, I got.
What kind of calls?
I got calls from different people. When they would call me, they would just hang up. But for Danielle's grandmother, when they would call her asking for Danielle, but Danielle had already passed away. So why is she still getting phone calls about her granddaughter that's already passed away for a while? I felt that was very insensitive. And on top of that, she's an elderly woman, and obviously her grandmother wasn't going to feed into it, so she always would just say she's not here and hang up. But they did this for a while, and then faded off. I believe that they were afraid that we were going to come forward with the story. That's what I kind of think. I think because the way I was kind of a witness to this situation, there were so many different elements to it that they probably didn't want me to come forward with the story.
Did you ever witness any physical abuse?
So much happened, but I don't think I witnessed physical abuse, but I witnessed manipulation, intimidation, domination, and aggressiveness with the staff.
Did you ever give money to the ministry?
Yes, unfortunately we did.
Both you and Danielle?
Me and Danielle gave a lot of money, and we gave jewelry. We promoted this ministry. And now I regret even, I wish I was never associated with them. I wish I never promoted them. At that time, we really thought they were saying what they were doing. We thought the money was helping human trafficking victims. We thought the money was going to good causes, to help the poor, to help the hungry. Never would we have imagined, who would give money to something? Why do 5,000 people give money to something that's going for bad uses? We have to ask ourselves that question. Why would we do that? Because we were all manipulated into thinking that the money was being used in a good way, but we know now it wasn't.
During the time that you were there, did you know that he owned different properties and mansions and things like that?
I knew about St. Louis, and I knew that he wanted the Mall of America. That's what he would talk about a lot.
That he wanted to purchase it?
He wanted to purchase the Mall of America.
Okay.
He wanted to purchase the Mall of America, and he wanted to do events at the Amway. So the Amway is now called the Kia Center in Orlando. He wanted to do an event at the Amway. So those were like his two major projects that he would have all of us know about and want. Like, we knew this is what he wanted. I believe the property in Tampa he acquired after I disconnected.
I think it was. And just while it's on my mind, did you ever have any one-on-one conversations with David Taylor?
Yes.
Can you tell us about those?
Yes. So some of the one-on-one conversations with David E. Taylor would go like, they would happen through Facebook Messenger, basically saying, you guys are my spiritual daughters. I want you to be involved in the ministry. Thank you for all that you're doing.
So you don't know if it's coming from him.
But we don't know if it's coming from him. Now, did we meet him in person on a few occasions? Yes, we did. But my whole interaction with David E. Taylor, the times that I had with him in person, were very brief, very brief, so.
Yeah. Now that you've had time, it's been like 6-7 years since you've disconnected.
Yes, ma'am.
What has it been like for you, just processing what you went through, what you saw?
Well, it was a long journey to heal through all of this. I had to heal because this situation, I guess people call it church hurt, right? Or church betrayal. Because, you think you're the church is supposed to be a safe setting, but we were not in a safe setting. Because of the betrayal, because of the lies, because of the manipulation, I basically had to heal from the situation. I've come a long way. I forgive them. I just refuse to hold unforgiveness in my heart. I refuse for this guy to take away my faith in Christ. I know Christ is real, but I refuse for this situation to take away my faith and to take and to like I had to let go of the anger. I had to let go of the hurt because I can't carry that with me. Unfortunately, there are people in this world that, I guess they feel they can weaponize the Bible against you. But in the end, you know, that's why he's now having a 10 count indictment, you know.
Did you ever feel like when you were there that you were catching him or Michelle or anyone in lies, anyone that was above you telling you what to do?
I had a specific situation where I got sat down by Angel. That's another one, Angel Jones. I don't know if you heard about her, but she was also kind of not like a Michelle or Kathleen, but she did have somewhat of a team leader role. So Angel, Tony, Joseph, they all sat me down, and I was basically, me and Danielle were both separated, actually. We both got separated, and they reprimanded me, and then they reprimanded Danielle.
For what?
I think it was because of just the type of schedule that we had, and just because we were a little bit, I guess maybe a little bit of a wild card, because we were not full-time, we were part-time. So because of that, Danielle and I had our own schedule, we had our own mindsets. We would question things, we would question the staff, we would question, why can't we listen to a different pastor? I remember Kia, she was one of the girls there, she would get upset if we would say, oh, we're going to a different event in a different ministry. They would get upset. That's how their mindset was set up, that David E. Taylor is the prophet of all prophets. If you go outside of that, you are breaking protocol. So because we were a little bit of a wild cards in there, and we would question things, we got reprimanded for it.
So what was it that you were talking about in regard to a lie? Did you catch them in any lies?
Lies, I don't think I caught them in lies.
Okay.
The lies came after, when Vicky Yogi came with her video. That's when I knew the lies were there.
Right. How did that make you feel? Like, what about what Vicky, what about what she said affected you personally in regard to your experience there?
I think for me it was the fact that she was basically also having the same situation, had 3 women, including Michelle Brannon, you know, corner her, trying to break her down. What they did to Vicky, they tried to break her down. That's what David E. Taylor did to Jenny. He broke her down, you know? So I think that part of it just shows the psychology of it. They want to break you down. They want to be able to control. They want to be able to tell you how things should be. So I think for me, that part, I felt for Vicky. You know, I felt for her that she had to go through that.
Is there anything about, like, just processing this and looking back, is there anything that you can pinpoint and say, yeah, that's why I went there? Was there something that attracted you to that particular ministry?
I think for Danielle, because she was the one that connected me, it was the fact that he wrote a book called Face to Face with Jesus. And if you went into his ministry, he had a whole area of all his books, of all his teachings. So I think it was the whole fact of like, wait, what? We can have face-to-face encounters with Jesus? I think that's what kind of drew Danielle. For me,
what about you?
For me, it was the fact that I was already kind of on a journey where I was seeking Jesus more. I mean, I grew up Catholic, but I always had Christian friends around me. So I always had a relationship with Jesus. But I think the fact that Danielle was going through a medical condition and I was going through my own spiritual journey, those two things played a role into us connecting. you know, us connecting with them and them taking advantage maybe of both of our vulnerabilities.
Yeah. And then since being out, was there ever a time that the FBI contacted you and wanted to talk to you?
Yes, I had conversations with the FBI.
Okay. And so just if you were, people are wanting to know, because that's what we talk about, what kept you there? Are there things that you can share with somebody that is wondering what kept you there for the amount of time that you were there?
For me, I was feeling like, you know, I was feeling like if they are doing good things, I want to be a part of this and I want to support this. I think that was the thing for me. If they're helping these people, if they're really helping human trafficking people, I want to be helping however it is I can. And for Danielle, I think for Danielle, it was more her miracle. She wanted to be alive. She was young. She was only in her mid-30s when she passed away. This was a girl who was very social, her and I have some commonalities, but some differences. She's a very social girl. She loved promoting events. That was her real day job, event promoting, marketing businesses, marketing art, marketing different types of things. And that was her passion. And she really had such a beautiful talent. I felt like, she didn't live out her full potential. And I think Danielle knew that too. And she wanted to live, and she really wanted her miracle.
Did you ever see anyone get physically healed there?
So I do want to say, me and Danielle, yes, we were connected with JMMI, but we were also connected with other ministries.
Right.
So Danielle did experience a medical miracle, but it was not through JMMI.
Interesting.
Danielle did experience a medical miracle. Now, did miracles happen at JMMI? I believe I believe maybe they did happen, but not because of David E. Taylor. They happened because God can heal you no matter where you are.
Right.
It's your faith that heals you. It's not David Taylor, it's not a prophet. It's your faith and whatever it is you believe Jesus can do for you. Like, if you believe, it will be done. So yeah, maybe people did, they did have miracles there, but it wasn't because of David E. Taylor.
Right. So, I just want to close it out, and if we wanted to do it again, we can talk about things that people might have questions about.
Yes.
But just where you are right now in life, and seeing what's going on with David Taylor. Well, they were arrested. We don't know exactly where David Taylor is right now, but Michelle Brannon, she's going to have a bond hearing next week. How do you feel about all of that?
It's a relief for me. I don't know. It's not that I'm happy to see them in jail. It's not that. It's just that I feel like what they did to so many families, so many people, the marriages that were broken, the money that was taken, the forced labor, just the amount of damage this man and this organization did, they deserve to do time.
You brought that up about breaking up marriages or relationships. I know that off camera we were talking about that a bit. Can you talk to the people about that, like what they would do in regard to, like, say people were coming into the ministry and they had a boyfriend or fiance? What did you experience with that?
So I personally know 2 of the staff girls. One of them was married, one of them was about to be engaged. The one that was married, she ended up having an affair with David Taylor, and divorced her husband, and she gave up her whole life in Canada, gave up a successful business in Canada to basically go and be with JMMI. You know, the other girl...
Do you know if she's still there?
She's still there. She's still there, and I am praying for all the staff to get set free. I am praying for them to be reconnected with their families. You know, the second girl, she was engaged. She had 2 children. The children were also part of JMMI. Thank God last year she disconnected and she is now with her family, but she's still not free from the mindset. She still believes that David Taylor is who he says he is. So her family is trying to help her to break from that lie.
Right. And you know, I'm sure we talked about this before, like the call centers, it looks like they're still operating. You said that you tried calling recently. Can you tell us about that?
So I called in because I felt led to like question, you know, why are you guys still taking the phone calls? And it actually took me to a third party. So what happens is if the call center doesn't answer in Michigan, it goes to a third party answering service. I told the third party answering service what had just happened to this organization. So I reported it to them so that they could report it to the manager.
They didn't know? They said they didn't know.
They said that they did not know.
You know, people are going to say, because I called the call center, they're going to say, oh, you were talking to an AI. Do you think that you were talking to a real person?
No, it was a real person.
How do you know?
Because when I would call back, from 2015 to 2018, every time we called in, if Michigan didn't answer, it goes to a third-party service.
Okay.
And I had talked to the third-party service before, so I know it wasn't AI.
Okay, and then you called again, and something else happened.
Yeah, so I found it interesting because I always went straight to the Michigan lines. That's another thing. I would always get the Michigan call center, but this time I was rerouted to someone in Nevada, a volunteer, also part-time, just got connected about...
When was this?
I called them like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Just got connected 1 month ago to them. She did not know about the arrest. She did not know any information. And I told her, you know, I want to save you the time and the heartache. Disconnect from this place. It's not good.
Did she listen to you?
She was shocked. She was shocked, and I think she will take my information. I hope so, at least, you know.
While you were there, you know, was there ever any social media? Because I know that way before this recent arrest, there was social media people talking about this as a cult. Were you aware of that? Or did anybody talk about it? And if so, did anybody like David Taylor or Michelle Brandon tell you guys to stay off social media?
So the first thing was the disposition videos.
What's that?
The Deborah Fraser disposition.
Oh, the deposition. The deposition.
The deposition, sorry.
Yeah, it's
sorry.
okay.
I'm not good with legal terms.
No worries. The deposition.
The deposition video with Deborah Fraser.
Okay, let me just say something. So if you guys have watched those deposition videos, there's tons of them. People are saying a lot of things about them. So this is what they are. It's a civil suit, and it had nothing to do with David Taylor. It had nothing to do with Michelle Brandon. They were not parties to the case. It was Deborah Fraser, who is a female, married to Ricky Fraser, and they were getting a divorce. So Deborah Fraser is the one who instituted the divorce. So she is the plaintiff. Her husband is the defendant. And the reason that I could gather just by watching these, the reason that Michelle was deposed was because David Taylor kept saying you have to ask Michelle about certain information. The reason that David Taylor was brought in was because Deborah Fraser donated $1 million to the ministry. And was it in close proximity or to the time that they were getting divorced? Do you know?
I believe it happened during after the divorce, or maybe even before the divorce, she donated the $1 million.
And that's going to be, and I've said this before on my channel and other videos, that's going to raise a red flag. So obviously the defendant's going to want to take the deposition and find out where that money went. But go ahead, what were you saying about Deborah Fraser and the depositions?
So yeah, they would not want us to watch it. You know, when we would go to service events, they were always so on top of making sure that you do not watch that video. It's a way of persecuting us. It's a way of smearing the name of JMMI, smearing the name of David E. Taylor. And I actually had a conversation with Deborah where she basically looked me in the face and told me I wanted to donate the $1 million, and I know it was the right thing to do. You know, so that's how, again, the manipulation and the brainwashing, you know, she did donate that money, and she did it because it was her choice.
Is she still there? Do you know?
Yes, I think she's still there too. So,
wow. Do you have any contact with people that are still in there?
no.
What
No.
about people that have left?
Yes.
Okay. And can you share anything about that? You don't have to share their names.
Yes. I know that one of the full-time staff members, I know that there was physical abuse that occurred. And that's why they ended up having to disconnect, because
What happened, if you can tell us?
I believe he confronted David E. Taylor. He confronted it, and David E. Taylor didn't hit him, but got people to hit him.
And they left because of that?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else that you've talked to that has left?
Yeah, I mean, she's the one full-time staff member, but I know the family members. I know several of the staff members. Family members, I've talked to them. I haven't talked to them recently because like I said, I disconnected for a while, and I just kind of was in this space where I was just more to myself. But like, if God wants me to connect with certain people again, maybe I will connect with them again. This, for me at least, I can't speak for anybody else, but it was just such an intense thing, you know, so I needed that space to just be by myself. But I do know the family members.
How do you feel now, just taking this all in? Like, where do you feel you are in your healing?
Oh, I've come such a long way. I've come such a long way, and this is why I am coming forward with my story, because I don't want anyone to have to go through what Danielle and I had to go through. No one should have to go through what the staff and their families had to go through. It's just such a sad situation. And on top of that, it's sad that it's in a so-called ministry setting, you know. So I think I just my heart goes out to people who have to go through something like this, you know. So
What made you come forward to reach out to me and to talk?
well, it's interesting. When I saw Vanessa talking about the David E. Taylor case, initially my intention was not to do an interview. Initially it was to get legal advice. I just needed a legal perspective about specifically my situation and Danielle's situation. And thank God, you know, she did give me that advice. But when she mentioned, like, I am, you know, doing these type of videos, I was open to sharing my story. So I'm just grateful that there are people out here who are shedding light about issues like this, because it's very important. It's very important.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share that is still on your heart that you felt like maybe we haven't touched or covered? Or
I am just keeping everyone in prayer, and I'm keeping the case in prayer. And, you know, I have faith that justice will prevail, you know. So I think, you know, any information that comes up, I will just keep sharing however God leads me to. So
I'm so thankful and grateful that you did come forward, because I think that this is going to help some people. I mean, this is an insight into what you went through, what you saw inside that cult, and that's what I'm going to be calling it now. It's a cult.
It's a cult.
It really is. And if there are other people out there that, you know, that you don't have to come on camera, but if you just want to share your story, I would certainly be interested in hearing from you. And I really, really appreciate, Leslie, everything that you've done, just coming forward, taking the time to do it, because I think that people are going to hear your story and resonate with it, and it is going to heal people and set people free, even if it's just to talk to somebody else. Doesn't have to be me, doesn't have to be Leslie, but just to even other people. You know, I wonder if there are people that are in the cult right now that might be watching not just mine, but other people, and how that would affect them. Do you have any ideas or thoughts or impressions about that?
I wouldn't be surprised if they're watching this video, because one of the things that they do is literally go and watch videos about anybody who speaks against David E. Taylor or speaks against JMMI. So it's very possible that they may be watching, and my hope is, you know, you guys just wake up to the truth. You know, there's literally a legal document saying, you know, why he was arrested. Your families want you back home, you know. So I just hope you guys take a minute to question things. It's okay to question, even though he didn't want you to. It's okay to question.
I'm so glad you said that, because I always say that here. It's very good, it's very healthy to question things, and you have every right to do that. And if you're in a situation where you're told that you can't question, well, that should be a red flag and make you question things even more, especially why to even stay at some place like that. But thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I really appreciate it.
Me too.
So that interview with Leslie was quite telling. She provided some insight into what she saw at that Taylor location near Detroit, Michigan. And she was there, she was involved with that ministry for approximately 3.5 years. And, you know, the circumstances surrounding her leaving, you know, her friend didn't go with her. And unfortunately, her friend passed away, had nothing to do with the cult. She had a medical condition, but, you know, that's something that obviously weighs heavy on Leslie, as you can probably see from her her testimony, from what she shared. And I hope that this conversation with Leslie helps anybody out there. You know, I always say on my channel, if it helps just one person, then we've done our job. We can't learn about, know about, do something about a situation if people are not talking about it. So I think it's very important. On my channel and other channels, people are talking about these things to expose what's been happening, what's going on. I'm sure a lot of you have questions, and I even shared that with Leslie. You know, I'm asking her questions that are on my mind. And if you have questions, share them in the comments, because Leslie is open to doing another video if that becomes something that, you know, if I see that there are a lot of questions that perhaps were not addressed, that it's something that she is certainly open to. Her heart, obviously, and you listened to her and watched her, is to help people. She is hopeful that her coming out, and I believe that she was very courageous and brave to come out, because she even shared with me off camera that her family, at first, they were not on board with her coming on camera and doing this video, but they did get to the point that they all felt that it was the right thing to do. So I hope that you enjoyed that, and I look forward to reading your comments down below. See you soon.